Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome back to another DraftKings DFS Slate breakdown. UCL Wednesday edition on our hands here. And this is the tougher, I think, group of games with the Man City Real Madrid tie. And interestingly enough, we have PSG now included on the main classic slate when they were the earlier showdown last week. So it makes it even more difficult where you kind of had a bit of a roulette between Man City and Real Madrid attackers. And now you add on to that PSG attackers with their kind of juicy matchup against Brest. So really even more ways to go here, especially at forward. And yeah, like I said, I think it's gonna be a super interesting slate in terms of projected lineups and set pieces for Real Madrid. In this team, it should be mostly Rodrigo, with potentially Ceballos taking a couple of one-offs. We'll see if Modric ends up playing, and he'd be the most likely guy in that situation. Man City, I think it will be Foden and Marmoush splitting, potentially Savinho taking a couple of one-offs. It's interesting they have no Kevin De Bruyne in this projected lineup. He's not injured or anything. They typically use him for the Champions League, but I could see maybe why they think they'll roll out a similar lineup to what they had when they beat Newcastle because they played super well there. And maybe just De Bruyne is just on his way out. He's just not part of the team or like not part of like their strongest starting 11. So that's something to watch out for, just to see what they do with De Bruyne. If De Bruyne is in, I expect him to have a split with Foden and Marmoush should be the one without set pieces. That's just assuming Marmoush and De Bruyne play together too, which I don't think they've done at all either. So just another thing to watch out for. PSG and Brest, it should be Lee Kang in mostly, potentially Doué or Hakimi taking some one-offs. It was super, I don't want to say weird, but something to keep in mind was that when there was no Lee Kang in starting for that first leg of this tie, it was a Nuno Mendes and like Doué semi-split. Like mostly Nuno Mendes, Doué took a couple of like free kicks, but it was super interesting. Like we haven't seen Nuno Mendes sets in a long time. So if we see no Lee Kang in, like if it's who could start here? I'll just say like Ramos or something, for example, and they put Dembele out wide. Nuno Mendes becomes a super intriguing option just because he's probably most likely set piece taker. And I love my defender set piece takers, as I always say. Kvaratskhelia, another guy who could potentially play as well, and he also, I think, would split with Kang if they both started together. And I mean, Doué probably is one without any share. For Brest, it was mostly Kenny Lala last game. I thought it'd be mainly Favre, but Lala took like almost everything. Favre took a couple of like free kicks, but like it was just like all Lala practically. I don't know if they'll continue to do that. I think it'll likely be more of a split potentially, or even more Fabra next game or this game. So who really knows there? Like Pereira, they have Pereira Laga potentially starting at left back, and he also could end up taking a thing or two. So it's not an exact routine here. Oh, and if Kamori Doumbia starts at like the number 10, he'll have priority over Lala. So they're both right-footed guys when Fabra's a lefty. PSV and Juventus, it should be a Bierman monopoly for PSV. And then Juve in this team, it should be mostly Koopmaners, maybe Yildiz splits. We had Douglas Luiz start the first leg, so it was almost like a completely different set piece situation. Douglas Luiz actually got there, which is a little bit surprising to me since he typically is just not that great for DFS. Koopmaners a little bit more attacking than him, but also some definitely ability to sub there. He's typically not a 90-minute guy, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Prices. Like I said, you can go a lot of ways at forward here. There's the obvious Man City, Real Madrid guys, high goal total in that game, already a high scoring first leg. I don't really see that letting off really because both teams just can't seem to defend for the life of them, with Real Madrid just having this really makeshift back four, a lot of guys out of position. The Man City just playing poorly on the defensive side, just in general, typically. So yeah, like I said, I think you can get to any of these spend ups. Like I don't really want to rule out any of them except for maybe no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't rule out a single one of this whole like first page of attackers. I think you can go a lot of ways Dembele and Mbappe are the ones with minus goal scoring odds if you want to just play the odds game, which I think is fine here. Like if you just want to look for just some tiebreaker among all these guys, since they're all just great players and you can really make an argument for any of them. Yeah, like I said, like it's hard for me to decipher who to eat, who to go myself here. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I think it's a bit of a roulette wheel. I like Marmoush a lot. There's no De Bruyne. That may be my edge there at forward, just because he's a little bit cheaper than your Vinny's, Mbappe's, Dembele's. Another thing to keep in mind is that City are down on aggregate, so they should dominate the ball somewhat. Real Madrid probably want to counterattack anyway, so at least Marmoush will have flow, hopefully, if nothing else. On the flip side of that, though, that probably plays right into Real Madrid's hands. So despite like Vinny and Mbappe maybe not having as many floor points, they could end up putting 3-4 goals past Man City again, just because they love playing that counterattacking style and they could really take advantage kind of how slow this Man City back line is. A little bit of game theory there. And yeah, just at the end of the day, just play who you want, really, forward, I'd say. Other guys like Douay is kind of cheap. I don't mind that. Like PSG probably will just comfortably smash Brest. I already have one leg. Like I don't really like the. I'm sure Brest probably have zero belief that they're going to come back from this, frankly. And I can see PSG racking up the goals. But another thing to keep in mind with that is that if they get kind of comfortable, like 4 or 5 goals up on aggregate, they could end up subbing the more important guys like a Dembele, like a Vitinha, who are kind of like part of their main league squad. Hakimi, I don't really think will get sub. He just typically plays just 90 no matter what. He's similar to like Kimmich in that sense, where I'm not really worried about him, but like these attackers especially, I think could be a little bit in danger for minutes if the game gets too comfortable for PSG. Savinho, like I don't mind him, but probably getting subbed is the issue there, and just a lot of forwards around him. Then we got Yildiz. This is probably the budget option for me. He should have a share, I want to say, with no Douglas Luiz in projected. If Douglas Luiz, he just becomes another really just upside piece. And he's not even that bad in that role for this price. But at 5,700 with sets, this is where you go for value for forward if you're not going for a double payout. Kolo Muani too. Another bit of an upside play there, not a ton of floor, but if you want to chase a goal contribution, not the craziest idea there. And then I don't love really anything below that. So yeah, like I said, plenty of ways to go at forward. Midfielders. Foden feels a little pricey here. He was okay first leg, but you really kind of need a goal contribution, of which he's been a little off of form. But it's not awful at 8,600. Lee Kang In, he will get subbed almost for sure. He has not played 90 minutes. He played 90 minutes one game all Champions League, or 2 games to be fair. I don't really see him doing that now that they got Kvaratskhelia. Most of their attackers are healthy. Like they're not missing anyone in terms of attackers. So he's going to get subbed. They just have too many guys. Like they'll all play a little bit of minutes. He probably goes 60, 70. He also started in the league. There's that to keep in mind too. I think there's zero chance he goes 90. It's just whether you want to ride him for those 60, 70 minutes with a potential monopoly. Although not that there's upside there. Another downside for him. So he's okay, I suppose. Now, if De Bruyne does start, 3,700 I think is great value. I know he just has not really looked himself, but even then, like I just believe in the ability. I just believe in the ability. He had 19 floor against Bruges, so he can get that even without getting a goal contribution. He was not crazy against Real Madrid, but a goal contribution puts him on 15, 16, 17 points like that. And 7,700 just feels too cheap for him. That's cheaper than he's been the entire time. So I really like 7,700 De Bruyne. Bierman, who I loved last week, priced up slightly, so I don't love that. PSV are at home; they tend to go for it in this spot. The aggregate, of course, is in Juventus's favor, so they should really go for it. I probably end up just going for him in this slate, despite his upside not being there. Like you take the 15, 17, 18 points that he gets, and you're just fine with that. Hopefully, get more upside from your forwards to make up for it. So yeah, I love Bierman here. Love De Bruyne. And then other mids that I'm considering, not a ton. Ruiz is fine at 4,800. Ceballos is fine at 4,700. Tomori Doumbia, I could play that if he starts. That is cheap, and they're gonna like Brest should go for it just because they're down three. They might throw in the towel after they give up a couple goals, but on just the off chance that they score early and start to have some belief, I'll definitely have some Doumbia. Valverde at 3,900 doesn't feel terrible. Madi Kamara at 3,100 feels like a decent GPP play. He's got some upside to him. And did I miss Douglas Luiz? Where was he? 40. Oh, he's out. Okay. I didn't even, did I miss that? It doesn't even say it, I think, under injuries. Oh, no, it is. I just missed that. So at least don't have to worry about that. Like if Yildiz starts, he should have a share, like I said then. And then Coop Mainers, 4,300. That's not bad value at all either. He's probably getting subbed, but he's typically solid in his limited minutes. Like he'll get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, potentially in floor. Especially if PSV score early and the aggregate becomes tied. The game could open up for sure. Defenders. Hakimi, this is you just play Hakimi here. Like I said, he just doesn't get subbed, gets a ton of goal contributions despite being a right back. He's typically just very solid. Like he's good for 13 to 20, just depending on whether he gets a goal contribution or not typically. He's not like a serial crosser like you see with kind of these like premium defenders, but he gets a ton of shots, ton of foul draws, ton of key passes. He just finds a way to get there. So I'm starting most of my builds around Hakimi, whether that be in cash or GPP. And Nuno Mendes, I love if there is no leaking in. He just becomes probably an auto play for me. I just go Nuno Mendes and Hakimi together and build from there, just however they fit or whatever build fits around them. I mean, if there is leaking in, I don't love him as much, but I like him. Like I still think he's not a bad play because, like I said, PSG potentially kill Brest. Like it could be a pretty big beating. And so I just keep exposure to PSG if nothing else. Other guys, Gavardio, I think I don't really love him away. Kenny Lala up 4,200 isn't that crazy. He was solid first leg. I know they're away now, which is the worry there. But if he can get there against Real Madrid, I'm sure he can get there against PSG again. So I hit behind Lala. Other guys that I'm considering, probably more punt level. Like a Savona, if he starts, I think is okay. And Emilson Fernandez, if he's like in midfield, I think could be a little bit different. He can go, hopefully get some upside out of that just because he's mispositioned. Ferland Mendy is just your absolute, oh, no, wrong guy. Ferland Mendy is just your absolute. He does the job, or he doesn't do the job really, but he's 2,600, so why not kind of play. That's how I feel about him. Never does anything crazy, but he is a salary saver if nothing else. Oh, and then Malacio, is he in projected? No, but if Malacia plays, I'd really love that at 2,800. That'd be a lovely option to have. Goalkeepers, as always, it was a crapshoot. What did we have for this Tuesday slate? It was Schmeichel Mignolet day, or I think Schmeichel got late goal kind of screwed him, but Mignolet had a ton of points. Had what, like 25 or something? I was lucky enough to land on him in my own main lineup as well as having a ton in GPP. The reason I did that was similar to just what I said for the video was that even if Bruges go down, like it was still good flow for Atalanta. And in this case, they went up, so it was even better. So now Mignolet ended up just making even more saves. So you can maybe make that same argument for this slate with none of the ties are close, so they can't really ship that much. Like a Real Madrid Man City. If Man City score early, I don't think Real Madrid will change all that much just because I think they're happy playing on the counterattack if possible. So even if the score is tied, I think Man City will still control the ball, and that means that Courtois will potentially still get good flow, even if Man City are winning the game. So I don't know if I necessarily play Courtois, but that's just a game theory idea that I have here. Like that game could also be like 4-4, and then no goalkeeper's gonna be worth it there. So yeah, like I said, don't fuss too much about it at the end of the day. There's a ton of variance at the goalkeeper position, and just prioritize your outfield positions and just be comfortable with whoever you have salary for left. In terms of a core, I said I love Hakimi here. I'm going him for sure. And then it gets a little bit tough. I'm going to assume that De Bruyne doesn't play. I'm just going to go off of projected for now, which means I'd go Bierman is my favorite mid. And now it's tough. I could go a Yildiz here. I could go a De Bruyne. Well, like I'm not playing De Bruyne starting. I could go Yildiz here. I could gamble on like a Man City, Real Madrid, or PSG piece, like a Dembele. I'm kind of tempted by, hoping he gets a couple goal contributions since kind of no one's been hotter. But for now, I'm going to put a Nuno off these lines. I'm putting a Nuno Mendes. I still like him despite leaking and being in projected. And if there's no kind of real nice cheap options, I likely just get there. And that's how I'd start a lot of builds, I feel like. But as always, that's subject to change. Make sure to check out the FSI Discord through the website linked below, where I will have an updated core when we get all the lineups. And yeah, guys, I'll see you for the next one, and peace.